I think we're in. Hi, guys. All right, we've managed to get it going tonight, so thank you. Apologies for postponing it last week. We just had a few technical difficulties. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to record the live stream tonight so that you can watch it back. It'll be posted on either on our Facebook or our YouTube. I will put up a post and let you guys know where you can find it. But I'm here with Shan from Gevity. She's going to talk to you guys a bit about gut health and how that can help you to getting to the Kokoda Challenge finish line. So I'm going to pass it over to her now and she can chat to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amy. Thank you, everybody, so much for your patience. Last week was an absolute debacle, but we made it. We're back. So hopefully you guys can learn some things tonight, get some information that maybe you didn't already know. If you do have questions along the way, feel free to pop it into the chat box. And if I don't address it as we go, we can certainly circle back to it at the end. There's no silly questions. If you're wondering it, other people are also probably wondering it. So please do feel free to ask anything that you would like to. To start off, I'm just going to introduce you guys to the brand Gevity Rx. Gevity Rx is short for longevity prescription, and this is a brand that is a small family-owned business based on the Gold Coast. And the whole ethos behind the brand is to support people's long-term health and wellness. So all of the products that Gevity create is really designed to support things like blood sugar regulation, gut health, and just overall wellness and longevity in our health over the longer term. So if you guys haven't tried any of the Gevity products, we will have a discount code for you later on tonight. So you're more than welcome to take advantage of that and use some of the products. But what I wanted to talk to you guys about tonight is all of the different things that encompass gut health. I think a lot of the time when we think about gut health, we just maybe think about digestion. We maybe think about, whether we're going to the bathroom or not going to the bathroom. But our gut is actually responsible for so much more than just that digestion and assimilation and absorption of nutrients. Obviously, that is such a key component of it, but there is so much more. And every day we are learning more and more about all of the different things that the gut actually has so much impact on. So did you know that we actually have more bacterial cells in our body than we do human cells? So there's more bacteria in and on our body than there are people in this world. So we are basically a whole pile of bacteria wrapped in skin with very complicated emotions. So that, I think, just really helps us to understand that amount of bacteria, it's no wonder it has so much effect on everything in our body. So I touched on a little bit of the fact that it, has effect on our digestion. It also affects our immune system. It affects our metabolism. It affects our mood. It affects our sleep. It has an impact on our cognition. It has an effect on our hormones. It affects our hydration. It affects our energy production and balance. So there is just so many different things that our gut can impact, which is why it's just so important for us to really take care of and nurture that gut as much as we can. So for you guys who are about to embark on such a huge athletic challenge, something that is not only very taxing on your body, but it is going to be super taxing on your digestive system. Mentally, it's going to be super tough as well. So making sure that we are supporting that gut, which is then in turn going to support all of these other parts of your body to make sure that you get through this process in the best shape that you possibly can. So the bacteria that is in and on our body plays roles in everything from digestion and assimilation of nutrients to regulating our immune system, which our immune system, over 70% of our immune system is located in our gut. So if we're somebody who gets run down all the time or you're constantly sick, the first place I would be looking is at that gut health. And are we, eating too much processed food, eating too much sugar, drinking too much alcohol, taking a lot of prescription medications? All of those things can really affect the integrity and lining of that gut, which is actually where that immune system sits. So 70% of that immune system is actually sitting within that lining of that gut. So if you are someone who feels like you're constantly run down, addressing that gut is going to really help to support that immune system and make sure that you are, as strong and well as you possibly can be. So, for you guys, it's going to be so important not only to maintain nutrition throughout this whole endeavor, but it's going to be really, really important to prevent injury and make sure that you're able to maintain a really strong immune system. So, like I said, we've all probably heard the phrase, you are what you eat, but actually we are what we eat and absorb. There is absolutely no point in, spending money on all of this amazing nutrition, good quality food, high quality ingredients, if you're not actually digesting and assimilating any of those nutrients. If that's the case, all you're doing is creating really expensive poos, which is really unhelpful. It's a waste of money, and it's a waste of really good quality food. So we want to make sure that we have a really beautiful, strong gut to help you absorb all of those nutrients, digest them, and give you all of that energy that you're going to need to get through this really, really long endurance activity. So making sure that we have a healthy gut, like I said before, means that if we are eating a lot of processed food, drinking too much alcohol, eating too much sugar, having too much prescription medication, if you think about your gut lining like a fly screen. So essentially what's supposed to happen is it's got these tiny little holes in it, and it's supposed to let all of these little nutrients and vitamins and minerals into that bloodstream so your body can absorb them, assimilate them, digest them, all of those beautiful things. If we are drinking too much alcohol, not getting enough sleep, we're really stressed, we're taking a lot of prescription medications, we're eating really crappy food, all of those things are essentially like someone coming along and punching holes in that fly screen. So now instead of all of these tiny little beautiful holes, you've got these massive gaping holes within that gut lining. And instead of all of these beautiful tiny little nutrients and particles going through, you can actually have whole pieces of, undigested food that are then leaking out into that bloodstream. And then your body goes, holy heck, why have we got a piece of steak floating around here? Why have we got a piece of kale? And then your body mounts this massive immune response against this foreign body that's not supposed to be where it is, which is going to cause so much inflammation. So that can cause inflammation in that digestive system, but it can also just cause inflammation throughout the body. For some people, that might look like joint pain. For some people, that might look like allergies. It might look like, skin conditions. All of those things can be an indication that our gut integrity has been compromised. So making sure that we are healing and sealing that gut lining and making sure that integrity is there within that gut so that we can actually then assimilate and digest all of those beautiful nutrients that you want to, which is so vital for your energy production, for muscle repair, and for all of that overall performance. So our microbes that are within our gut are also responsible for our energy production. So the gut microbiota will ferment fibers and produce things like short-chain fatty acids, which are actually going to serve as an additional source of energy for you guys, especially during endurance activities like Kokoda. Short-chain fatty acids can be such a great source of fuel. Hydration is something, again, that is also going to be so critical for you guys when you're doing such a long endurance activity. You want to make sure that you have proper hydration. And that doesn't necessarily just mean drinking a lot of water. We've all probably gone through those phases, and feel free to put your hand up if you have, where, you've heard the recommendation that you need to drink like 3 to 4 liters of water a day. Who has done that before? I certainly have. And all that happens is you are just going to the toilet 400 million times a day. Like, you literally just cannot absorb all of that water because you don't have all of those beautiful electrolytes to help pull it into the cells. So drinking a whole heap of water without the electrolytes that you need is actually not going to really hydrate the body like you want to. It's just going to mean that you have to pee every, 15 minutes on the course, which is going to be super unhelpful for you. So the great thing about incorporating things like bone broth is that it's naturally high in electrolytes. So it's going to have calcium, magnesium, potassium, sodium, all of these beautiful things that are actually going to help your cells to really pull that water into the cell and hold it in there to create that hydration. So not only are you getting those beautiful things like calcium, which is going to support those bones, but you're getting magnesium. So magnesium is obviously going to be such a beautiful support for those muscles. It's going to help you to avoid cramps, and it's really going to help to support that body, but it's going to help to pull those electrolytes in the water into those cells because of that beautiful natural electrolyte. So bone broth is going to be such a great way to hydrate. Again, you can drink it nice and warm, so have it in a thermos or something like that, where you can actually just have it to warm you, because it is going to be cold. It is getting cold now, and it is going to be so cold, especially overnight. So making sure that you're keeping your body really warm is going to help that feeling of nourishment as well, but it's also going to help you to regulate that body temperature and not let you get too cold, as well as help with all those beautiful natural electrolytes so that you guys can feel really, really nourished as well. So as I said before, over 70% of our immune system is in our gut. So if you actually think about our gut is actually outside of our body. Does that make any sense? It probably doesn't. But when you actually think about it, it will make sense, because our gut is actually one big tube that runs from our mouth all the way down to our anus. It is one tube that is on the outside of our body. So the opening at both ends is external. So when you think about that, it's fascinating to think that we have all of this stuff, all of these microbes that are actually on the outside of our body. But it also means that we can actually take so much bad bacteria, viruses, all of these things into our immune system if we don't have all of those strong things that we need to help to support it. So again, making sure that we have, really good stomach acid and things like that are going to help to prevent, bad bacteria going where it shouldn't be going. It's also going to help you to digest and assimilate the nutrients from your food as well. So again, I'm harping on bone broth a little bit, but it is such a great way to get essential amino acids into your body as well. So we know amino acids are the building blocks for protein. So sometimes when you're doing really long endurance activity, you may not necessarily either feel like or have time to sit down and have a full meal, but you really need those nutrients. So bone broth is going to provide you with some beautiful amino acids, and they're going to be those collagen forming amino acids as well. So collagen is the building blocks for our hair, our skin, our nails, our gut, joints, ligaments, tendons, all of those beautiful things. So collagen after water is the most abundant thing in our body. After about the age of 25, our body's natural collagen production starts to decrease. So incorporating foods that are naturally high in collagen can really help to support not only those aesthetic things that I mentioned, like the hair, skin, and nails, but it can really help to support the integrity of that gut lining. So if you haven't been sleeping well, or you have been feeling particularly stressed, you've been drinking too much alcohol, you've been eating too much crappy food, something that is naturally high in collagen-forming amino acids, like bone broth, can be super helpful to restore and heal and seal that gut lining and just help to restore that integrity. It's also going to do all of those beautiful things that are going to support that endurance activity by supporting those ligaments, tendons, and joints as well. So the gut is also responsible for producing over 30 neurotransmitters. So that includes dopamine, which is responsible for things like pleasure, motivation, satisfaction, serotonin, which affects our mood, it affects our stress, it affects our anxiety, sleep. So those sorts of things are all happening within our gut. We used to think that our brain was solely responsible for producing those neurotransmitters, but actually now we know that so many of them are actually produced by these gut microbes. So the way that we make sure that we are supporting all of those beautiful mood and cognition neurotransmitters is to make sure that we have the right types of bacteria in that gut so that they can do that job. Now, it's not just about having lots of bacteria, it's about having diversity of bacteria. So we don't want to have just a whole heap of lactobacillus or a whole heap of bifidobacterium. We actually want the hundreds of thousands of different strains of bacteria that actually live in that digestive system to give us all of the things that we need. We need the ones that are going to support the immune system. We want the ones that are going to support cognitive function and mood. We want the ones that are going to support, short chain fatty acid production and all of these different things. So the way that we can actually make sure that we have diversity of bacteria is not just take a probiotic. Probiotics can be amazing for specific reasons at specific periods of time, but the very best probiotic on the market might have 20 strains of bacteria. We have thousands and thousands of different strains of bacteria in our gut. So a probiotic that has 20 strains of bacteria is not even touching the sides of what we need in terms of diversity. So the way that we get that diversity is through having diversity in our diet and food. So they've done some great research on the most diverse gut microbiomes, and they've found that incorporating 30 or more different types of plants every week is what's going to get us that beautiful, diverse microbiome. And the reason for that is all of these different types of plants contain different types of fiber, and all of those different types of fiber feed all of these different types of bacteria. So I would certainly challenge you guys to have a little bit of a think and maybe reflect a little bit on the week that has been so far and try and count the number of plants that you've eaten. So that's fruits, that's vegetables, it's nuts and seeds, it's herbs. It could be rice. It could be, we can call us a bread, a grain, one of those plants. But if we can challenge ourselves to even try and get close to where that's at, have a think about the week that's just been. Maybe write down a note of how many different types of plants you got in there. And if you got 10, your challenge for next week might be, let's try and incorporate 15. The week after, we might try and incorporate 20. But the more diversity we can get in that diet, the more diversity we're going to have in that bacteria in our gut. And that's going to give us the strongest, most robust gut microbiome that we could hope for. And that means that we're going to have the bacteria that we need to support the mood and cognition, to support the immune function, to support that gastrointestinal integrity. We're going to have those microbes that are going to make the short chain fatty acids for us, the ones that are going to produce the melatonin, which is going to support our sleep. We're going to have the ones that, produce the dopamine and the serotonin. We're going to have those beautiful microbes that actually support our metabolism and have positive effects on our blood sugar and our blood fat response by having this amazing diversity in there. So our good gut bugs, which are our probiotics, will consume all of these different types of fibers from all of these foods. So these foods that have all these beautiful fibers for our gut bugs are called prebiotics. So the actual bacteria is the probiotic, the food for the bacteria is the prebiotic, and then the probiotics, our bacteria, will produce things like postbiotics, which is things like those short chain fatty acids. So those short chain fatty acids can actually cross our blood-brain barrier, and they can actually support things like our cognition and focus and mood. So for you guys, this Kokoda walk is a long one. So making sure that we have that right bacteria to help to support you and produce all those beautiful, happy neurotransmitters is going to help you guys stay focused, stay positive, stay feeling happy and upbeat throughout this whole process, which is going to be super challenging for you. So I think probably to put a little bow on all the things that I've just talked about, what can we actually do to make sure that we have a really healthy gut? We can try and incorporate 30 different types of plants each week. And if we're not, that's okay. Let's have a look at where we are and let's try and make that a little bit more each week. Some easy ways to do that are to incorporate different types of herbs. You're going to get lots of beautiful little phytochemicals and micronutrients and vitamins and minerals from herbs. They are such beautiful nutrient-dense foods. You can incorporate things like fermented foods, so things like sauerkraut or kimchi. They can be an amazing source of probiotics as well. So we're getting lots of different types of bacteria in there. Things like kombucha, things like water kefir, things like, like a well-fermented yogurt. Again, they're all going to be beautiful sources of probiotics. So they're going to help to repopulate that gut. We want to avoid excess sugar and alcohol because we know that that does compromise the integrity of that gut lining. We want to avoid those really inflammatory, highly processed foods, which, that's obviously common sense. If we have a diet that's made of Doritos and pizza, that is essentially what is then going to make up every cell of our body. So our body is using the Doritos and the pizza to make the new cells. And if we want cells made out of Doritos and pizza, by all means, fill your boots. But I don't think they're going to be the cells that are going to get us through the Kokoda trail, in the best possible way. So we want to try and avoid those really highly inflammatory processed foods. Again, incorporating fermented foods is going to be a beautiful way to help to increase that probiotic diversity as well. And when things are not in season, so, we're coming into winter, there's not a huge diversity of fruits. Like we're essentially dealing with apples, pears, and oranges. That is really the scope of what is actually in season at the moment. But we can look at different things like pickled veggies. So, when something like fennel is in season or celery is in season or all of these sorts of things, we can pickle those sorts of things and have them in the fridge so that we can actually incorporate them in times where maybe they're not in abundance. Things like bone broth can be super helpful to heal and seal that gut lining and help to restore that integrity. But also it's going to be such a beautiful form of nutrition. So we've got all of those beautiful collagen forming amino acids, which are really going to help to support that hair, skin, nails, gut lining, joints, ligaments, tendons. It's going to help with recovery. It's going to help to support that electrolyte balance and that hydration. And it is just such a beautiful, nourishing food. I think when we think about bone broth, it's such a new trendy food at the moment. But bone broth is just the way our great-grandparents would have made stock before we had, crappy Campbell's stock cubes, right? So it is such a beautiful ancestral healing food. If you think back to, when you were younger and you were sick and someone might make you chicken soup when you're sick, it wasn't for the chicken, it was for the broth, because we know that broth is just such a nourishing and healing food and there's just so much nutrition to be had from it. And it is the perfect thing when you are doing long endurance activity and you don't necessarily maybe feel hungry. It's going to give you that nutrition and nourishment you need without, feeling heavy. As I said before, it's going to keep you feeling really hydrated as well as, supporting those ligaments, joints, tendons, and those muscles for recovery as well. Was there any particular questions you guys had that you wanted me to touch on?
One of the things that stood out to me was you mentioned that bone broth is really good for hydration. And one of the biggest things why people withdraw from our events is actually because they're dehydrated. You would think it would be because of injury or chafing. That is a big one. But hydration is actually one of the biggest things, and also people not eating at their support crew checkpoints as well. So I really like what you said about bone broth can be really helpful in that aspect, even when they're not feeling hungry. So is there ways that you can incorporate it into other foods and things like that?
Absolutely. So if you've got support crews that are meeting you at checkpoints, you could just get someone to bring you a jar of bone broth and a thermos, or they could have it pre-made up in a thermos for you. If you're cooking something like rice to have, because you want to have those, easily accessible carbohydrates, cook the rice in bone broth. That way you're going to add those extra nutrients, because let's be honest, rice is a fairly nutrient void food. It's giving us carbohydrate, which is great, which is what we need. But other than that, it's not really giving us any other nutrition. So cook the rice in bone broth, and that way you're going to actually, supercharge the nutrients of that food. And again, if you're not feeling particularly hungry, like you said, people are under eating and they're not eating at the checkpoints, because I think when you're doing that really long endurance activity, you don't necessarily feel hungry until the very, very end. So even if it's just having something like some rice that's been cooked in broth, you're going to get those carbohydrates. You're going to get some of that extra beautiful nutrient and collagen forming amino acids in there, which is going to, again, help to provide that hydration point and pull all of that beautiful water that they're drinking into the cells rather than just making them pee a whole lot. And I think that's probably a lot of the reason why people perhaps don't drink as much water, is they don't want to be constantly peeing. If they're having something that is naturally high in electrolytes like bone broth, it's actually going to help to pull that water into those cells, and you will not need to go to the toilet anywhere near as much as if you were just drinking plain water. So that could be a really great way to put it in. Alternatively, make a soup. It's going to be really cold. And again, you want something that's going to be really easy on that digestive system. You don't want something that's going to feel heavy in that stomach and just make you feel lethargic as you have to continue to, walk however many more kilometers. So making a soup with bone broth is going to, again, rather than something like just a stock that's pretty nutrient void, make your soup on bone broth, and that way you're going to add all those extra nutrients in there. It's going to be really easy on that digestive system. Again, beautiful source of hydration because it's that beautiful liquid, and it is just going to be so much easier for them to consume and get those nutrients in as well.
Yeah, beautiful. I think you had a question from Alicia. She's wondering how often should I have bone broth?
There is no limit. There is no limit. It's really as much as you want. I personally tend to find in summer when it's 40 degrees in the shade, I do not drink a lot of bone broth, but I will use it in cooking. So again, if I'm cooking rice, I'll add it into my rice while I'm cooking. If I'm making a salad dressing, I might add it into a salad dressing, shake it up, add it that way. If I'm making anything that has a sauce, it goes in there. If I'm making burger patties or meatballs, I will add it into there. So I'll incorporate it a lot more into food in summer when it's hot. But in winter, we tend to probably have way too many cups of tea or coffee. You could have a few mugs of broth as an alternative to that as well. So it's going to, again, give you all those beautiful extra collagen forming amino acids. It's going to feel nourishing. It's going to feel warming. And it's actually going to give you a bit more satiety than just having a cup of tea as well. So it makes you feel fuller. It kind of feels like a warm hug in a cup. So there's no limit to how much broth you should drink. I would just suggest starting off with, start off with a cup in the morning, and a cup at night before bed can actually be such a beautiful way to support sleep because it's naturally high in magnesium. It's going to really help to support that sleep as well, and much better than having anything that's like caffeinated, like a hot chocolate or, a black tea or anything like that before bed, which is potentially going to disrupt that sleep. Having something like a bone broth then could be super helpful. But I know a lot of people will just take a jar of broth to work and leave it in the fridge. And when they want a cup of tea or, something like that, they'll just go and make themselves a cup of broth because it's as easy as adding a teaspoon into a cup of hot water and drinking it.
Yeah, beautiful. You've got another question from Alicia. I had a gastric sleeve surgery last year and I struggled eating and drinking under exertion. Any recommendations for small portioned high value foods I can incorporate?
Yeah, so I would definitely say broth could be super helpful. And maybe soups might be something that could be really useful. So even something like, a pumpkin soup or a chicken soup, something like that, that's not going to feel really heavy and hard going and just make you feel, whoa. You could also do a smoothie, which might be a really great way to add some extra protein in as well. So you might want to do something like, bananas, some protein powder. You might want to, if you do fine with dairy, you could do it on regular milk, or you could do it on some coconut milk or almond milk, add some nut butter or something like that in there. So you're getting some carbohydrates, some healthy fats, and some protein, which is actually going to make that feel a lot more balanced. You're going to feel a lot more satiated. And it will probably just be a little bit easier going than something like a full meal. But you're going to get that constant, protein, carbohydrate, healthy fat that you need to just make sure you feel like you're nourished throughout that process. Smoothies work really well, and you can put them in one of those insulated water bottles, that stays cold for 12 hours, and you can just have, a sip every now and again as you feel like it. So that could work really well, or just have people bring that to your checkpoint for you as well.
Yeah, beautiful. Do you have any ideas on some snacks maybe? Because I know that people like to snack between checkpoints and things like that. There might be some good ideas that you could share.
It's really about what you want to carry as well. So I think you've got to be super cognizant of the fact that you're going to have to carry whatever it is that you're thinking of. I would definitely think about making some things like you could do some protein bliss balls. So you might want to do some bliss balls, but instead of them just being like dates and cacao, which is just a whole ball of sugar, you could add, again, some protein powder. If you do find with dairy, I would go with like a flavorless whey protein. You could add a collagen powder in there if you wanted to. Again, you could pop some nut butter or some nuts and seeds in there so that we're balancing out the natural sugar and carbohydrate from the dates with some healthy fats and some protein. That is going to make you feel fuller for much, much longer. And it's actually going to support your body much better. It's also going to help with that blood sugar regulation. If you have something like a bliss ball that's just, made on dates, you're going to have a massive blood sugar spike, and then you're going to have a big crash on the other side. And what happens then is you feel lethargic, you feel bleh, and you either then go for more sugar to get you back up here, and then you're on this roller coaster of blood sugar dysregulation. So making sure that whenever we're having something that has sugar in it, and whether that's, natural sugar like dates or whatever it is, we want to make sure that we're balancing that out with some healthy fats and some protein. And that's going to make you feel so much fuller. You're going to feel satiated. You're going to eat less of them, but you're actually going to get a lot more nourishment out of it. And you're going to have a lot more stable energy. So things like bliss balls could work. Again, you could make your own muesli bars. So you could do like oats, nuts, seeds. You could do some honey. Again, I would put something like collagen in there or some protein powder so that we're actually going to get some protein in there as well. Smoothies are a really easy one to make sure that you're getting nutrients in as well as energy. So that could be a super easy one. I actually love doing like a salted caramel banana smoothie. So I'll do like a couple of dates, a banana. I'll do a teaspoon of our natural unflavored bone broth, which has no flavor, but it adds a slight saltiness. Add some coconut milk in there, blend that up, and some protein powder. And you've got this like little bit salty banana, add some cinnamon in there. That works really, really well as well. Again, you could do things like nuts, seeds, like make a trail mix. You might want to put some dried fruit and stuff like that in there. Again, you just want to make sure if you're doing stuff like dried fruit, have it with some nuts. So you're getting a little bit of healthy fats and protein in there as well, not just eating just dried fruit, which is potentially going to cause some digestive distress if you eat too much of it. So making sure that it's balanced. So if you're having dried fruit, make sure you're having it in a mix with some nuts. That way you're going to probably eat less of the dried fruit, and there's less chance that you're going to be trying to run behind a tree to deal with your digestive problems.
Great. There's some good ideas here. The smoothie sounds great.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any more questions? I like what you said about how it can help with recovery, because I know that after walking for 96 kilometers, people are a bit sore.
100%. So all of that, magnesium, calcium, potassium, sodium, going to be super helpful for, again, that hydration piece, which is also so important in your recovery. But even just, making sure you incorporate broth after the event, it's going to really help. All those beautiful collagen forming amino acids are going to help to support that recovery, repair of those joints and those muscles that have gone through such a huge stress throughout that period of time as well. And then, obviously things like sauna could be super helpful. You could do some like cold immersion stuff, but really getting lots of sleep afterwards is going to be the best thing.
Yeah, 100%. I think people will be sleeping for a long time. Yeah, beautiful.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we do have a discount code for the next 48 hours. If anyone does want to purchase anything from Gevity online, it's just Kokoda, all in capitals, 20, and that'll give you 20% off for the next 48 hours. Highly recommend if you're new to drinking bone broth. AM Cleanse would be my choice of broth to start with. It's a very good gateway broth. Ginger, turmeric, lemon, myrtle is the flavor profile. It's not particularly overpowering in any of those flavors. It's very mellow, very mild, works beautifully in rice when you cook it as well. My kids call it sunshine rice, makes the rice beautiful yellow color. Great in a salad dressing, works well in a green smoothie as well. Once you actually add some, pineapple or mango into your smoothie, cancels out the saltiness. So that is a really great one if you're new to broth. AM Cleanse would be my suggestion there. And if you love a bit of sriracha, I would definitely go the sriracha mayo. Chef's kiss.
Sounds great. Well, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us all tonight. We really appreciate it.